Haida tamathetai. Here's just one final video on conditions with some tips on translating them from Greek to English and English to Greek. If you're looking at Greek and trying to figure out what it means in English, then what you want to do is read the sentence and figure out what the formula is. And from the formula, you'll know what the type of condition is, and then you have to think, okay, what does that type of condition sound like in English? And then you can go to a translation from there. So let's try it, okay? We have the sentence E adelphon elusas angelon an epempsan. Okay, so your first job is to figure out what the formula is that's going on here. And like a good Greek student, you look at the verbs elusas and epempsan and you identify them as aorists. So the formula we have is a plus the aorist in the protasis and the aorist plus on in the apodosis. So now you have to ask yourself, what kind of condition is that? And you answer, that's a past contrafactual. So what does a past contrafactual sound like in English? It has the pluperfect in the protasis, right, and then the past conditional in the apodosis. So if X had A'd, then Y would have B'd. That's what the English version of the past contrafactual is going to sound like. So finally, you will come to the translation, if you had destroyed your brother, they would have sent a messenger. E adelphon elusas angelon an epempsan. I take you through this somewhat laborious process because you will understand right away that if you had just gone to the verbs, elusas is an aorist, you destroyed, epempsan is an aorist, they sent, you would get something like, if you destroyed your brother, they sent the messenger, and that's not in fact what it means. That doesn't in English convey the past contrafactualness that the Greek formula has implied. So you cannot directly translate the verbs and come to the right meaning of the Greek. You have to first figure out what the formula is and then figure out how English does the same thing. Of course, if you're being asked to write the condition in Greek, then you have to do the opposite kind of a process. You have to read the English sentence, figure out what kind of condition it is, remember what the formula for that is in Greek, and then use that formula to convert the English into the Greek. So we'll give that a try. Let's say you're given the sentence, I would bury my weapons if you were sending gifts. So the first thing you have to figure out is, what kind of condition is that? In the protasis, if you were sending; in the apodosis, I would. So now I have to break to you the news that if you have would in English, it can actually mean a whole bunch of different things. There is what my colleague Jackson Bryce used to call a veritable forest of woods, and you have to figure out what the particular wood tree is that you're looking at. In the apodosis of a past contrafactual, you get would, but you also get have, right? I would, if I had been in danger, I would have buried my weapons. So we can rule that one out in this case because we don't have the have. You also get would in the apodosis of a past general. When I was young, I would bury my weapons if I needed to hide them. And that is the English conditional standing in for a kind of repeated action in the past. I used to bury my weapons, I would bury my weapons. So that's a possibility, okay, if you have if plus a past tense. If I needed to hide them, I would do something. That can be a past general. It can also show up in the present contrafactual kind of conditions. If I were losing the fight, I would bury my weapons, but I'm not losing the fight, so I'm not gonna. And it can also show up in the hypothetical one, the future less vivid. Which, as I said in the last video, gets called should would and gets translated should would, but normal English speakers very infrequently use that formulation. So should you pay me enough silver, I would bury my weapons, but more commonly, if you paid me enough silver, I would bury my weapons. So note that you need to listen carefully to determine whether something is past general or present counterfactual or future less vivid, because all three of those use would in the apodosis. So back to our sample sentence. I would, excuse me, I would bury my weapons if you were sending gifts. What kind of condition is that? Pay close attention to the protasis, right? If you were sending gifts, I would bury my weapons. Are you sending gifts? I think not. So yes, indeed, that sentence is a present contrafactual. So now you have to ask yourself, what is the formula in Greek to convey the present contrafactual condition? And you will answer A plus the imperfect indicative in the protasis and the imperfect indicative plus on in the apodosis. So that gives you a dora epempes ta hopla an ethapton. If you were sending gifts, I would bury my weapons. Okay, but once again, you cannot go straight to your verb in order to translate that, because if you just translated them literally as imperfects, you would get, if you were sending gifts, I was burying my weapons, and that's really not what the English, that's really not what the Greek conveys. So to review, you read the sentence. Either you, if you're reading the Greek sentence, you look at the formula and figure out what the condition type is, or if you're in an English sentence, you figure out what the condition type is and remember what the formula for that is, and then you translate it from English to Greek or Greek to English. You do this a lot and you'll get used to it. Conditions are used all the time because we're always thinking about what might happen if something else happens. So it's very, very good for you to really internalize these constructions in a big way. Best of luck with that. Goodbye.